Hey guys, what's up? So today I got a brand new guitar and it's got a really long neck. So stay tuned. All right guys, so this is going to be my third go around with the brand Firefly. Now, for the uninitiated, Firefly is a budget guitar brand company. They, like many other companies who manufacture budget guitars, whether they're established brands like Epiphone, Squier, LTD, Schecter, even, a lot of the low end budget guitars are made in China. This is one of those guitars, unlike the kind of knockoff, no brand, AliExpress kind of deals. These guitars actually have a sort of built up pedigree around them, and they're quickly becoming more and more prevalent. And people are starting to realize how kind of good they can be. But if you've seen any of my other videos on Fireflies, and I'll link a couple up here, you'll know that Firefly isn't always up to par based off of the reports that you get off of the forums, Facebook, and other parts of the internet. Now, for me, this is my third go around. My first go around was kind of a let's see what this is about. I was pretty blown away by what I got and the quality. The second go around, it was let me try a different type of guitar. Let me see if lightning can strike twice. Let me see if there's something that basically roll the dice and see how lucky you get, because I do think that there's some of that going on with some of these budget brands. Brands like Harley Benton, for example, you tend to kind of get one and it's cool. You get another one and it's like, oh man. And I could go into depth about that, but that's not what this video is about. This video really is about this particular guitar. This is number 3 from Firefly. This is a 28-inch Les Paul style baritone guitar. It just looks long. When I saw it, I was like, huh. It's actually longer from back to from bottom to top than my 30-inch baritone from Harley Benton. Now, the things that I kind of harp on when it comes to any guitar is whether or not it has a good fit, a good feel, a good finish, and kind of what the price point is for what you get. So I got this yesterday and I immediately opened it up, and I was happy to see that everything was set up in a way that you would expect for a brand new guitar. Most guitars that I get from any retailer come with a neck that has a slight bit more relief than what I like. Still within, a comfortable spec. I usually like it just a tad bit flatter. It definitely had the strings and everything were perfectly set up, pretty in tune. I think this came up set in actually drop A, so it was like B standard with the drop A. I don't know if that was intentional. Either way, I set it up and dropped it down to drop G because that's kind of what I want to do. Surprisingly, the strings that they put on here are relatively heavy. I've seen other baritone guitars get sent out with what I would call strings that are too light for the style. And so my next step was to just kind of go through and find any kind of cosmetic flaws. I'm happy to say there's nothing majorly cosmetically wrong with this guitar. No, even the binding, the binding from a design standpoint is a little thick in spots, like it's thick in terms of the profile, but it's consistently thick. It's not like wavy or kind of weird. It does have kind of this interesting back cut thing going on where the binding is kind of only partially, around in spots. I don't know if that's common on other guitars that do this kind of modern cutout thing, but one of the features that drew me to this guitar was the fact that the back of this guitar has this modern contoured neck finish. Unlike some of the other set necks that they make in their Les Paul styles, they have the blocky kind of classic. This is a very modern contour, has a belly cut. The next step for me was to go ahead and just try the hardware out to see, tuners, look at the bridge, see how sharp the edges are on the bridge. Of all the Fireflies that I've actually owned, and there's only been 2 of them, the hardware on this one seems to be the most refined. And what I mean by that is the gold plating, the gold color plate, whatever they use to cover the chrome on here. It's very smooth. It's very consistent. There's no bubbles. There's no little, bits in there. No sharp edges. Actually, very smooth edges on this. The tuners on this particular guitar, they're just standard, whatever generic tuners. I don't know if that'll zoom in. If you see them, they're just generic kind of Grover style tuners. The machining on these ones are actually a little bit better than I expected. I was anticipating going, hey, if I was going to do anything to this guitar, it would be to change these stock tuners. Granted, I do like locking tuners just as a matter of, preference. I like to have really fast string changes. These are fine. In fact, they're pretty more than fine. Today, I actually just wanted to do a straight up review of the guitar with no modification. If you've ever seen my channel, you'll know that I tend to get some of these cheap guitars and do like a modification project and compare the original to the modified, blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing that today. I just opened the guitar and I'm like, I'm just going to review it as it is, as somebody, as a consumer were to go, I just want to buy this guitar and just have it be what it is. Because out of the, small sample of Fireflies that I have played, this is the most out of the box, ready to go with the least amount of gripes. And we'll get into what my, critiques are in a little bit. But first, let's play some tones. All right, so I'm on the clean channel of my EVH, and I'm on the bridge pickup, and here's what we got. Very full, very beefy sounding pickup. This stock PAF style, whatever they got in here, it's working. It has a really well balanced sound output. I don't feel like it's fighting me, and I don't feel like it's dull and muddy. A lot of stock pickups can be like that. This one was surprisingly good. And if I go to the neck pickup, back to the bridge. Middle position. So with these set, they are pretty well matched to each other in terms of output. The neck pickup is a little bit hollow sounding, if I could say that. It's got a little bit more of like a thuddy kind of scooped tone, whereas the bridge is a little bit more nasal mid-forward. And for clean tones, it's really not that bad. I like the middle position a lot. I think in terms of a baritone, I'm not typically, for my style, using baritones in such a way that I'm going to be using a lot of cleans. But if you're like a kind of like a fusion jazz player and you're looking for like something that's, baritones have a real prevalent kind of use in the world of like jazz and fusion and kind of more eclectic styles. This was actually a pretty good sounding pickup setup for that kind of clean, fluid, like kind of clean fluid tone that's not going to be super like over the top, like chimey, not too forward, something that you could soften up and you could do some like really nice runs without a whole lot of pick noise coming through. So moving on to what I typically do, which is more of the gain stuff, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the blue channel. I'll just kind of play a little bit of the crunchy blue stuff, and then I'll boost that blue channel, and then we'll go full on to the red channel. All right, so here's the blue channel, just as is, no boost. yeah, that sounds pretty beefy, pretty chunky. I'm just running through my Mesa oversized 412 with the 2001 Vintage 30. They got an SM57, but in the room, it's just there's a lot of heft to this guitar. I mean, it's mainly to do with the tuning. I'm in drop G, so let me turn on a boost. Let's tighten up that low end, and let's see if I can't get this more into kind of a chuggy, hard territory. All right, so I just got the Ibanez TS9, pretty standard run-of-the-mill boost pedal overdrive going on, and here's what I got. Yeah, that is the sound. That has like a really nice kind of slightly loose bottom end that, and the response, now granted, most of that is the amp and the speaker and everything that's going on in the signal chain. But when you get a pickup that it doesn't respond well to the pick, it doesn't respond well to what you're doing, it can really kind of inhibit your ability to kind of like get into the groove of feeling that chuggy like bottom end. Now, that's not the most tight that I could probably get this. It still has a little bit of a roundness in the bottom end, but for a guitar that costs $230 and is cool looking as it is, I'm happy with that tone. So I'm going to switch over to a different pedal, the Lick Lamb Audio King in Yellow, which is my favorite overdrive, and see how more tight I can get this. Got to turn my gate up just a tiny bit because the King in Yellow is a little bit more of a loud pedal. Yeah, that'll do. That's absurdly aggressive and just, man, in your face. All right, so now I'm on to the EVH Red Channel high gain. I mean, this channel is as much gain as you'll ever need. I don't even think I have it up to even, maybe 7, 8 o'clock on the gain dial. And here's what we got. Yeah, that's just mean. That is quintessential, just aggression, modern. It's a little bit more kind of growl, round, in your face. Like, there's still a bit of low mids coming through, but it's not, it's not quite as, chunky as like a Mesa. It's got a bit more to it. And with this guitar, with this tuning, and especially with these pickups, I'm impressed with kind of the whole system that's going on here. Now, typically with these guitars in the past, what I have kind of picked up on, with no pun intended, is the fact that the pickups tend to be kind of hit or miss. The first Firefly that I got, the pickups were microphonic. I tried to wax pot them, and it kind of killed some of the character of what they were doing before. Now, microphonic pickups are mostly a problem if you're using a lot of gain. If you're not, if you're doing more vintage kind of classic style stuff, a microphonic pickup can actually impart a little bit more of a sweet character into the, the overall sound, because you're getting kind of those microphonic, harmonic overtones from the string and like the picks and stuff like that. For high gain, that's not what you want because they'll just squeal. It'll be like Feedback City all day. And actually, these ones are not microphonic. In fact, when I have the gain turned on and the gate off, they have no problem just being pretty quiet. I'm pretty impressed by that. So with that said, I'm probably not going to replace any of the pickups that I normally would. These are probably going to stay in and just be fine. The other thing is, I already touched on this, the machine heads, the tuners. Typically, not a fan of cheaper ones. These ones seem to be doing fine. Unless something changes about that, I probably won't touch those either. Now onto some actual critiques of this guitar, because there are some. Like with all Firefly guitars that I've had, the two that I've had, the poly finish on them are just okay. This one, a little bit more of a shine compared to the last two. The last two I got were pretty lackluster in terms of, how well that gloss actually like looked. This one though seems to have a bit of a thinner finish on the top, especially because if you hold it in the light in a certain way, you can see some of the rippling of the paint underneath the top coat. And not to mention that when I did my minor truss rod adjustment, just to kind of flatten the neck out for my, for my personal taste, I did drop my screwdriver, taking the plate off. It did graze the top of the finish here, and it took a little chip out of the top. I mean, a very minor chip, but enough to me, to show me just how thin the actual finish is on this. So, in terms of the finish on this guitar, it's still just okay. Like, just like the last two I had, it's like one of those, 6 out of 10 finishes. Granted, this is black, so it's pretty forgiving in a lot of respects. Beyond that, I don't really have much else to harp on. If I was going to be a little bit more nitpicky, I will say that the tone of the gold hardware in relation to the gold on the pickups is a little mismatched. The hardware seems to have a little bit more of that like amber yellow color, whereas the pickups look like a more pale yellow gold. Again, very minor detail there. And so what you're really getting for the low price of $230 some odd dollars, you are getting stainless steel frets, you are getting a rosewood fretboard, you're getting a bone nut, you're getting mediocre hardware, seemingly hit or miss electronics in terms of pickups. Potentiometers all seem to be fine on the interior. They're all 500K full-size pots. They seem solid. They turn. There's no real mechanical noise going on when I turn the knobs. Even the switch up here seems pretty solid. Is this worth grabbing? Sure. As long as it's like this, yeah, for sure. Again, I've mentioned this in the past when it comes to cheap guitars, especially brands that aren't necessarily established or through like a real dealer. You're going to roll the dice on the potential for consistency and quality to be a little bit more variable. So far, I've been lucky. I've gotten no real major things to gripe about when it comes to these guitars. However, that's not the case with everybody, and everybody has a story, at least, of one guitar that they've gotten in the past, regardless of price point, that they've had to send back and or request money, partial refund, etc., etc. With these, I would just say keep your expectations somewhat tempered, because you're not always going to get the luck of the draw. But I've been pretty good 3 times in a row. This one especially, I would say it's worth going for because it's a unique guitar. It's cool to have a baritone Les Paul, in my opinion. And if you guys got any thoughts, opinions on this particular style, or even Firefly cheap guitars in general, throw them in the comments below. They're always interesting to read. It's always interesting to get some perspective on some of these things. And I'll see you guys later.